Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Phat Phil, and for this video, we are going to be looking at our Hutt Cartel, Bounty Hunters, and Smugglers, and doing a faction ranking. You may be wondering why I didn't just pick Scoundrels, and I wanted to kind of break it out, make it a little bit more detailed for this. I wanted to kind of capture the Hutt Cartel, and then I was like, I need some Bounty Hunters and Smugglers, so I kind of combined all of them into one. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. What other factions do you want to see? I've been trying to combine some that I think are kind of interconnected together, or to make sure that we're capturing more than just doing like a boring video with like 10 characters in it. So, as always guys, smash that subscribe button, leave likes, and leave comments. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. If we hit 5,000, Wampa will hit Relic 8 on a special live stream. He may not be a Scoundrel, he may not be a Smuggler, he may not be a Bounty Hunter, he may not be Hutt Cartel, but he is king. Guys, remember, Wampa is a furious foe, and you do not want to back him into a corner because he will use his Howling Rage and womp you. I almost used all of his abilities there. Maybe I'll have to do that next time. We'll get Icebreaker in there somehow. Let's dive in here. Alright, so the first two characters, remember, we go worst to best. I have Kira and Young Han. Remember, when I do these videos, we are rating characters who are needed for Galactic Legends. We give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt that they are useful, because you can complete this game, right? You can get to the end game without ever having to gear up Kira and Young Han. I can't say that for some of the other characters on this list. That's why they're there, and they have uses. This is the thing. They're not like that bad in terms of, you know, what they can do. They're just not the greatest. That they kind of need other characters to make them good. We got Mob Enforcer. She's a GL rec for Jabba. Other than that, horrible character. There's nothing else to say there. She's a GL rec. I have Gamorrean Guard here next. I struggled because I do think with relics, Gamorrean Guard is a very, very good tank. My main concern there is he's a relic through requirement for Jabba. So unless you're planning to invest all these additional relics into him, which you may as well put those into Kersantin, Skiff Guard Lando, Coors Light Leia, you know, anybody else. It's one of those where if you're going to invest the relics into him, you'll probably get some use, but otherwise I just don't see the added benefit there. So you've got the two veteran smugglers here. The resistance tag helps both of them. They are smugglers. They've got the resistance tag as well, which can be really nice. Where I think they fall off a little bit is there's always better characters around. I think there too, the way I use my veteran smuggler Han, I can run a resistance team with JTR. I can throw him with Dash Rendar if I need to. So there's some random uses here and there that I'm not going to say I've never used veteran smuggler Han, but he's definitely not one that you're, you know, jumping for joy when you get him to relic levels. It's just kind of one of those check the box. Yes, they're a Galactic Legend. I just think them having the multiple tags of resistance, smuggler, and, you know, like Scoundrel, right? Having these multiple tags here can really help them in terms of how you can fit them into your roster. Young Lando is higher on the list, and even though he's not a Galactic Legend requirement, his ship is required for Galactic Legends Rey, and because he's a pilot, he gets a lot more love in this list because pilots always carry more weight. He doesn't have a terrible ship. It kind of just fits in with the Resistance fleet as a reinforcement, but again, he does fit into the Dash Rendar team. He's got some good mechanics. I just really think that this is he's a solid character. All right, next we have No Cap Greedo, and we call him No Cap Greedo because his basic technically has no limit on how many times this can go off. So, you know, every time he uses his basic, I forget, is it there or in his, yeah, he has a 50% chance to attack again whenever he scores a critical hit. So technically he could, you know, shoot to infinity, and it's hilarious when he gets like 5 or 6 basics in a row. But definitely a character that I would, you know, highly recommend using with Jabba at times if you're looking for that, you know, random character to fit into. Otherwise, not a ton of great uses. Where I see a lot of this is like Dark Side, you know, for like Rise of the Empire territory battles or Dark Side territory battles. If you're doing Geonosis and you have Jabba, Greedo can be a good character to kind of throw in there because he's got that Hutt Cartel tag. All right, next we have Dengar, who is a banner stealer. He really can steal so many banners in GAC, which is why so many people use him. he's got some decent mechanics. The thermal detonators can really help against, with some of those teams. His Zeta is not bad either. I think early game Dengar sees a lot more use, and as you transition later and later, he kind of starts falling off a little bit simply because you're going to have access to better bounty hunters, and you're normally not going to be placing them on defense as much, simply because they are pretty, there's some pretty decent counters out there to them. Next, we have Aura Singh, and what I'll give her credit for, the reason she's a little bit higher, again, all three of these are, like, Dengar's a executor requirement, and then Greedo and Aura are both requirements for Jabba. The thing here with Aura Singh, she's either leading the best bounty hunter team, or you're just not using her. There's no other way around it. You're either using her for her stealth lead to get an easy contract, or you're just not using her. Which, again, make with that what you want. She's a great character with her lead. Without it, I think she's kind of just meh. But again, you got her for Jabba, so it's gonna help you. All right, so Zam is next. With her, I'm a little bit harsh on Zam, so kind of like Moff Gideon, I'm a little bit harsh on Zam. So she needs Omicron, or else she's not really that useful. And her Omicron loses value in 3v3 because it's completely dependent upon how many bounty hunter allies she has with her. So in 3v3, you get a lot less bonus from this Omicron, and that can play a big factor in terms of the caliber of team you need to counter bounty hunters if they're on defense. So me personally, when characters are Omicron dependent, I need to drop them down, because outside of that game mode, there's not a lot of uses for Zam. So Boba Fett Sign of Django just goes a step above Zam, only because, yes, he's a conquest unit, but he's got some differing synergy there, and inside of Territory Wars, he can be really good in Territory Wars. I think his team will take, if you put the right team with him in Territory Wars, it's a much better defensive team than, say, the Zam Omicron is. The other thing I'll say with Boba Fett is that he's got that Tusken synergy in 3v3. So again, down the road, we could be seeing a lot of people using this team to great effect in a way that I think is much better usage than, say, the Zam Omicron. So, again, you could almost put them in the same category, but I find myself using Boba Fett Sign of Django or Dad Bod Boba a lot more often than I'm using Zam, even though they're at the same relic level. I just think Dad Bod Boba has a little bit more utility than Zam does. All right, so we have Sana here, and she's actually a rebel. Her leadership is all about rebels, and even though she doesn't have the rebel tag, so the reason we've got her here, she has the smuggler tag. She's very good with the right team, and the team you need to build with her is a little bit more unique in that it's like Stormtrooper Han, Cara Dune. It's some characters that you may not be investing in otherwise. And so for me, that kind of dropped her down on the list a little bit, if I'm completely honest. As good as she makes them, there's some additional investment you need to make that, in my personal opinion, when you're playing this game, again, as you guys have heard me say, that I give Galactic Legend requirements or farming requirements a higher spot on the list here. And Boba Fett, he's not required, but there's a lot more uses for him than, say, some of these other characters. And with Sana, it's one of those where, you've got to go build some of those other characters. You've got to build her. It just, you can get away with just, building her for Afra and then moving on to some other stuff if you had to. All right, Embo. His Omicron works, or as I love to say, his Omicron does work. He's got a fantastic Omicron for Territory Wars. It really makes the Jabba team a lot more difficult to beat. Even without the Omicron, he's still fantastic. If you're trying to beat Jedi Master Kenobi consistently with Jabba, you need to have Embo in there to dispel that tenacity up, dispel any protection up. He's got a lot of stuff into his kit that really makes him good. And I think that's funny that he was a meme for a very long time, and now Embo really has some good uses with that Jabba. He is a requirement for Lord Vader as well, so he's getting bumped up on the list because of that. So this is going to shock people, right? But the 3 characters for Jabba the Hutt here are lower on the list, and as I was looking at all the different bounty hunters, what stopped me in my tracks is their synergy is so dependent on Hutt Cartel that for these 3 characters, their synergy is completely dependent on Hutt Cartel allies, and that to me limits their usefulness. That you can't go and put Coors Light Leia with a Bosk and get the same bonuses as you would if she's with a full Hutt Cartel team. And in my personal opinion, that's just not enough to rate these characters higher than some of the other bounty hunters who have synergy outside of Hutt Cartel. Because even, like Skiffguard Lando only has the Smuggler tag, and Hutt Cartel, he's not a bounty hunter. So again, I kind of put them in the same playing field to say they're all going to be equally impactful to their faction. Where I think Skiffguard Lando maybe has a leg up over, say, Coors Light Leia and Chrysanthemum is that he has the Smuggler tag as well, which means you could use him with Dash Rendar if you need to. Enfys Nest is next, and I put her higher than them only because she's got a lot more early viability, and that just building her allows you to have a solo team that can beat Mon Mothma squads. I've seen her beat lower level Padme teams before. She really kind of plugs into some teams and just makes them annoying. I think Enfys Nest is one of those characters that if you don't know how to get through her, you are going to get stuck and you are going to hate your life. So I really wanted to put her higher on this list because with, minimal investment being like 1 relic, you have a character who offensively can beat a fully relic team, or placing her in with some of your teams on defense can ensure that your opponent is going to have to take a higher caliber team or ensure that they have the right strategy to get through. And I have had her get me so many holds in GAC. All right, we got Vandor Chewbacca next, and I almost put Nest higher, but what kept her down is that, what kept her down, I think, from like where Vandor is, that Vandor makes that Dash team a lot more difficult to beat. With those revives, you put in the right characters, and all of a sudden, Vandor just really, really does some amazing things inside of Dash Rendar. He also has a really good, unique ability where, in addition, all enemies deal 25% less damage while Chewbacca is buffed. So that is huge, that you can throw... I see a lot of people used to run Vandor Chewbacca with Rey, and because he'd be buffed, you're dealing 25% less damage, that can be brutal against a high health Rey team. You can really, that was a timeout squad. IG-88 is next. He's a pilot for the Executor, however, he's the least important pilot in my personal opinion. That if you had to give me 4 ships that I could use for the Executor all the time, IG-88 would be the one that I would kick to the curb personally. Otherwise, you're not going to use him a ton until you would maybe get Afra, and then you can use those dark side droids and get that synergy. You can use him with shorty droids. He's really best with a droid team now. I think, as far as a bounty hunter goes, I think there's some better options. But being a pilot for the one of the best fleets in the game definitely boosts him on this list. Which is where Cad Bane comes in. He's a more important pilot. He's got the Hutt Cartel tag. You're not going to get a ton of use out of Cad Bane as a character. His kit really isn't that good. Just the importance to the Executor fleet that the Xanadu Blood has compared to the IG-2000, in my opinion, takes Cad Bane to a level that IG-88 simply isn't at. Cad Bane's also a requirement for Jedi Master Kenobi, so I think that kind of, boosts him a little bit higher, in my opinion. Again, just, you could put them in the same level for all I care. Next, we've got Hondo. So Hondo's just annoying. I'm curious to see if he continues to be annoying with his Datacron, but I think I kind of moved him down the list to say that he does have a really good Datacron right now. But I think Hondo's going to be one of those characters that's just annoying to take out in GAC. You see a lot of people struggling with it, where I'm kind of looking at him, you do need him for Afra. He's kind of got that neutral tag that we just don't know what to do with yet, but he's got the Smuggler, Scoundrel stuff, so a lot of people running him with Dash Rendar. Again, if you put Dash Rendar, Vandor, Hondo, Nest, you've got a pretty annoying team to deal with that I really think he kind of just elevates them, so I wanted to give Hondo the credit he deserves, that he's really made some of those teams a lot, kind of given them new life. L3 is next, and I was pretty surprised when I was ranking this that, she has an amazing pre-taunt. She really does. She, like, as a light side tank, having a pre-taunt, you can throw her with Ray, Dash Rendar. I mean, there's a whole, laundry list of ways to really get a good use out of L3 as a pre-taunt. And her kit, makes her really good. She's a pilot with Lando, so you do at least need her to get Galactic Legend Ray. A character that I think I give pre-taunts a lot of credit because they are so good. And particularly, you put her with Dash Rendar, you put her with Vandor Chewbacca, and you have a team that now you need to be able to get around her taunt to be able to target Vandor, and her taunt comes back so often that I really do think I rate L3 really, really high. And she's a character that if she wasn't in the Cantina, I would definitely have already because she just is that good. All right, next we have Fennec, and Fennec's high on this list because when you do use her, she's punching up. She's capable of beating Lord Vader. She's a very good bounty hunter in terms of, like, she's a solo character. If you get her early, she can solo a lot of teams simply because of her unique, where she is, trying to think where this is at. Is it in her? Oh, it's in her leadership. She gains, 100% defense, max health, protection, and offense, and they're reduced for each other ally present at the start of battle. So if you bring her in as a solo, she's getting crazy bonuses that can help you. Again, at the level I'm playing GAC at, I'm not really able to use her as a solo, but if you get her early, you can use her as a solo character for a lot of things. What keeps her down is I think she's more of an offensive kind of character that on defense, I think she just doesn't get a whole lot of use. All right, next we have Greef and Mando, do the magic hand thing. They're only needed for Beskar Armor Mando, so you don't need to invest in them heavily, but they are two of the better bounty hunters, and I put them in the same category because I simply can't rate one higher than the other. I think they kind of pair well together. Greef has the Dispel, he's got the Call to Assist. Mando has the, Disintegrate, just two characters that I really, really enjoy using a lot, and I think have... I'd love to be able to give them more than Relic 3 because I think they deserve that additional survivability, but ones that I'm more than happy to have in my roster. And I think as you progress in this game, there are two that are definitely worth going around and relicking if you have the resources available. All right, next we've got Boba Fett, and he's just solid all over. You need him for the Executor Fleet, you need him for Jabba the Hutt, and he's got the Hutt Cartel tag, the Bounty Hunter tag, he's got an AoE ability block. He can prevent revives with his wrist rocket. Just a solid, really solid. I don't think there'll ever be a time where I'm not using this character. That's just how good I think Boba Fett really is. That you're almost always finding a way to use Boba Fett in some way, shape, or form. And I really think that he deserves that credit for being a kind of, almost lasting, like he'll kind of be a character that you get him early and you'll continue to use him for a very long time. And that's rare in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, that you get characters that aren't like Galactic Legends or Legendaries with that longevity, but Boba Fett is definitely there. And his ship, even before Executor, is really good. And I think that's something to really understand, is that his ship is really good even before you get the Executor. All right, Zori Bliss. This is a controversial shout. She makes Rose Tico good, and if you're able to make Rose Tico good, then you deserve a lot of credit for being an amazing character. This is definitely controversial because she's so new to the game. You don't need her for anything at the moment, but I think in my personal opinion, it's the fact that she is that good, that she is taking those leftover resistance units and making them phenomenal. And I think that's worth so much in my opinion. I rate her so highly, and I think that there's going to be more to come with Zori. If you have Rey or you're farming for Rey, you need to have Zori on your list. The fact that it's just her that makes that team, go from nothing to amazing says everything you need to know about her. I highly recommend getting her if you have the resistance. That's just how good and how highly I rate her. All right, Dash Rendar, similar to Zori, except that he is needed for Starkiller and the profundity, and his ship is needed for Jabba as well. So he's got a bunch of wrecks tied to him. and he lifts the entire Smuggler faction. He kind of brings them together. Kira lead was good. Dash's lead is a lot better. Really gave that entire faction a facelift, and I think that he deserves that. I mean, he's in the Profundity fleet as well, so he's amazing. But I think for what he does for the Smuggler faction, that's where I really rate him that high. All right, right above Dash, we have Han Solo and Chewbacca, and this really just comes from them being Jedi Master Luke requirements. You need Han for Jabba the Hutt. The Millennium Falcon is a linchpin inside of your Rebel fleet for both Akbar and Profundity. They do so much. I mean, in 3v3, you throw them with Dash Rendar and you've got an amazing team. You can throw them with like Queel lead and get there's so many ways to use these two characters. I will forever and always be grateful for how well they've done for my roster. I love Han and Chewie, but you guys will notice that we're not done with this list yet, so they are not the tippy top, and that's because there are some characters that I think deserve a little bit more credit for how useful they are to your roster. So we have Jango Fett right above Han and Chewie. He is the tag king. You guys know this. I say it all the time, and I'll say it like I love Jango. He's got 4 different tags: Separatist, Scoundrel, Mandalorian, Bounty Hunter. And in every single one of those factions, he makes that team better. That you put him in Bounty Hunter teams, he makes them better. You put him in the Mandalorian team, they get better. You put him in like a Scoundrel team with like a Dash Rendar lead or, Beskar Armor Mando, he makes them better. Separatist, you put him with that Admiral Trench team, you put him with new whatever, he makes them better. He is not a pilot, but he is a requirement for Jedi Master Kenobi, and he's just one of those again, he kind of reminds me of Boba Fett a little bit, that you're going to use him all the time and just for so long get, fantastic use out of Jango. All right, Bosk is above Jango, and this is only because the Houndstooth is literally the best ship in the game. There is not a single ship in the game right now that is more important than the Houndstooth. It is needed for both the Finalizer and the Raddus to unlock those ships for the Galactic Legends. It's a requirement for the Bounty Hunter for the Executor Fleet. Now we're going this way, right? He is probably the most versatile Bounty Hunter lead. And finally, his ship is good with like so many other fleets. You can use it long before you get the Executor. Just one of those characters that I love Bosk. I really wish I could take him beyond Relic 5. I just don't have the resources at the moment, kind of saving those. But Bosk really deserves that shout for being as good as he is. And then we've got the man that's almost as fat as me. Jabba the Hutt, he's got to be the king of this. I mean, he's a galactic legend. He is so good. You've got the Smugglers run event that has where he's getting all the mod materials. In territory battles, he's got a combat mission in every single phase. He just really has revolutionized this game in terms of showing how important a single character can be to a roster. As hard as his requirements are, as steep as they are, he's well worth it and definitely the top tier character on this list. But we have a few honorable mentions we need to get to. All right, the Mandalorian, the Beskar Armor Mando. Guys, the Razor Crest is a bounty hunter ship, so he belongs with bounty hunters, right? Even though he's only got the Scoundrel tag, he's also got the Mandalorian tag, so some lucrative tags there. The reason he's here is because a lot of times you'll see people use him with Dash Rendar. Again, as a kind of, or to counter Lord Vader with Fennec, you'll bring Beskar Armor Mando if Maul is present, and that way he can make sure that Maul doesn't delete one of your characters right away. So Beskar Armor Mando definitely deserves that honorable mention as a bounty hunter. And then we have Queel and IG-11, and the reason they're here is because they've only got the Scoundrel tag, right? IG-11 has the droid tag, but with Smugglers, with Dash, they can be really, really good. They can juice Dash up. Again, you've got IG-11 who's a tank, so you kind of do that like Dash Rendar, L3, Vandor, Queel, and IG-11, and you've got a pretty formidable team there. Now I'm not recommending that you go and relic them as soon as you get them, but they're characters that later on down the road can really be important to your roster. So I felt that they'd be good honorable mentions. But that's the end of the list, guys. This was definitely one of the longer faction rankings, I believe. But let me know what your thoughts are. I'm curious if you guys agree with this list. Do you think that I had characters too high? I think some people won't like how high I had Dad Bod Boba, or probably also that Hondo is as high as he is, but I'm curious to see what you guys think. I want to know, how closely do I tie into what you guys feel feel in the game. Again, as I love to say in these videos, he who has the power makes the rules. So because I'm making the video, I get to decide where these characters get rated. But as always, I welcome your guys' opinions because that's, helps push the algorithm in YouTube. Smash the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. I love all of you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.